So how did I get kicked out of school? A lot. That's the summarised version of it. A lot. I did a lot, and or I sucked when I was younger with temptation. It's kind of why I was a petty thief, and or petty thief. Temptation. I was always tempted. But the sort of final straw was nearly killing a bunch of students accidentally. I inadvertently fused the entire science block in the school. And I laugh now because it's, stupid. Very, very stupid. But there's also a lot of shit that went on before that, kind of led up to it. Well, there was many occasions where I almost got kicked out. I was trying to think of exactly what it was, and it was just I nearly killed someone by giving them cannabis. That was a lot to explain to some. It's even harder when you were essentially smoking your parents' cannabis. It's like so many levels of fuckery you've got to go through to lie. And that was just one of those silly days where it was just I was tempted to see what would happen, and I found out the fucking hard way. So a friend, I say friend, someone I knew came up to me as I was stood there sort of smoking a joint. And he's like, "Oh, my friend wants to try it." No. It's like, "Oh, go on, he'll be all right." Okay, just be warned. It's not on me. Famous last words. Let him have a couple of tokes on a joint. Didn't think anything of it. Went back to lesson. Apparently, he had an allergic reaction to it. Turned green, and the ambulance had to be called. So, of course, guess who got in trouble for that one? Thinking as well, I got away with quite a lot when I was younger. One point I managed to steal money from one of the deputy headmasters, which promptly went on buying cannabis and tobacco. Fucking ridiculous, man. Essentially, I was put on internal suspension, so you're basically stuck at a desk in the teacher's area of the school, which is kind of stupid. And I'd been just left to my own devices, essentially. Given some work to fill out and get on with whilst I was sat there sort of... I can't even remember exactly why I got put on it in the first place. It might have been a follow-up, or... This is what I say, is for many years I didn't really get in trouble, so it was one of those things where I was able to sort of get out of it quite easily because I'd never been in trouble. But I think one of my first internal suspensions, I ruined the wall. Decided to dig a hole in the wall because I was bored and they hadn't given me anything to do, so I took it out on the wall and then got in trouble for just damaging the wall or damaging school premises. But that day I was essentially left, everyone had gone, and the deputy headmaster's office was next to where I was. Me being me, I was like, let's go and have a look, it's near the end of the day. Just being nosy more than anything else. Got nothing better to do. But there was a load of coins lined up on top of the desk, and I was just like, That's the thing when I was younger, is like, it was never the sort of, I'd never go out of my way to sort of look for stuff, essentially, but a lot of the time I'd end up in situations like that where I'd be faced with this sort of dilemma of temptation where it's like, fuck it, basically. And I think a lot of it is like, I was trying to figure out why. It's like, well, books. I was adventurous when I was younger and a bit of an adrenaline junkie, which of course leads you into interesting and stupid situations. But like with why I got kicked out, it was just essentially I'd got moved up to a higher set, like a higher level, essentially. The smart groups and then the stupid groups. So it's like split. And obviously the smarter groups get the better teachers. And I got bumped up to the top group because I was essentially couldn't get put down because I would cause more trouble if I got put into lower groups. And I couldn't stay in the one I was in because I was causing trouble, so they had to sort of move me around. So I got put up to the top set, just sort of sat there bored and listening to the teacher warble on about something or another, and I was just like, what would happen if you connected two neutrals on a plug socket with a bit of metal? The only thing I hadn't really considered, or, well, I didn't think it through at all at the time, is didn't have a long enough piece of metal to do the two neutrals, because essentially in my head, if you connect the two neutrals, nothing's going to happen, which logic would be. But because it was a double socket, I'd essentially put it from the live into the neutral, connecting the circuit. Which of course made quite a loud, quite a bright flash, a loud pop, and then all of the lights in the entire science block, so like 3 or 4 different classes, all went black at the same time. There's me sat there like, whoops. As I was saying to a friend, as I was always playing this sort of dualistic thing when I was in school, whereas, essentially stealing cannabis from my parents and then not being able to take it back. Once I had it, I had to get rid of it. And then I had to also hide where I was getting it, which obviously became more and more difficult as the years went on. But that would cause issues at home because, they didn't have much money, and the money they did have was all sort of tied up in growing cannabis and making sure they had enough cannabis, which, yeah. I remember I got my fucking ass kicked once because I'd essentially taken some, put it back where they had hidden it in the house, and then just went over to a friend's. I cycled over there, sat at my friend's, started having a bit of a smoke, just minding my own business, and I get a phone call. I was like, for fuck's sake. It was literally my fucking dad screaming his head off about where's his stuff, and I was like, well, it's where it was. He's like, well, no, it isn't. Well, yeah, it is. I only took a bit, and I was always one of those things where it's like, this is what I say, is like, I was a petty thief. I never took more than I could sort of justify or get away with. But that day, for whatever reason, he'd clearly lost the fucking plot. Demanded that I bring what I had home. Even though I had explained, it's probably just fallen down the back of the cupboard. It's, it is there. I'm not I haven't taken it all. So I apologise to my friend, jump on my bike, start cycling home, get about halfway home and a car screeches up next to me. Dad jumps out, kicking off, "Where's my fucking weed?" And I was like, oh, fucking hell, right. Handed him this little package, and of course he was expecting, a kilo. Like a big bag of it, basically, and it was just... He threw my bike off the sort of roadway, down a hill, and then pushed me and was just like, "Oh, don't fucking come home until you get the rest of it." And this is all while I'm pleading, like, that's all I took. There's more at home. But yeah, it was always this weird sort of contentious thing where it's like, as long as I didn't get caught when I was younger, like, and even when I did get caught, as long as I could sort of get out of it, there wasn't necessarily... I'd only ever get in trouble because I'd piss my mother off. This is why I say, is like, sometimes the role models around you aren't necessarily the best of influences. And I'm not, like I say, I'm not pointing fingers, I'm not pointing blame, because shit happens, move on, people change, yada yada. But yeah, there's so many stories from when I was younger where it's just like, it's fucking batshit. Just fucking batshit. Like, it was a whole phase that I would get drug tested, despite my parents, despite me stealing it from my parents, they would then drug test me to try and stop me from smoking it. Or give me shit when I was smoking it, because I had red eyes, which, yeah, of course. But yeah, a lot of the school, it was like a weird flip, like going from the sort of nerdy kid to this sort of extroverted, crazy kid, I suppose. And like a lot of it when I was younger, I didn't think it was that crazy, I didn't see how it was that bad, And a lot of it is because I had visions of going into the army. I was just like, school was a fucking waste of time. Academia was a complete waste of energy for me at that point. Despite the hilarity of actually, when I got to, I think I was 17, I tried enlisting and realised very quickly that I only have one eye. There's nothing you can do. There's no way around that one. Because they test your peripheral vision, and when you don't have any peripheral vision in one eye, they basically tell you to get stuffed. But that was the only reason, really, why I was able to stay in school, because, well, even then, I wasn't allowed to stay in school. I was expelled, but I was allowed to come back for my GCSEs. I think I was told on one of the last days, I was like, between me and a couple of others, we were the worst doppelgangers the school's ever had, because of just the sheer levels of chaos and trouble that we'd caused through the years. And like I say, if I'd known back then that I wouldn't have got it, that I had no option or no chance of getting into the military, I would have done things differently. But, there was no way of really knowing. Back then, it was, like I say, information was a lot more guarded. And or access to books was a lot harder, like there wasn't YouTube. You couldn't just listen to audiobooks. You couldn't teach yourself or learn. And like I say, I learned the hard way through dealing with my own temptation and my own demons because, well, yeah, when you have this, I wouldn't even call it addiction, but it is. You know what I mean? It's like, cannabis levels me out. Can't really explain it any other way than that. It's like, for me, it's just makes me able to function. Gives my brain a straight line, you know, like. But as I say, looking back, it's like, well, yeah, and when you're dealing with sort of addiction, depression, and family issues, and don't have outlets or sort of people to talk to, like, and whilst there was always people around me that tried, it's like, you can only give people half a story. That was a lot of the problem when I was younger, because it's like I couldn't really explain what was going on. I couldn't really explain a lot. And whilst I wanted to get into something academic, it was like, it didn't feel like an option. It didn't seem like there was ever that way out. Like, and a lot of it's because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Which, hey, you live and you learn. Oh yeah, stealing from the headmaster. Sorry, I know this is scatty as all hell, but so a lot of these stories is like so long ago, so much randomness between then and now, and well, killed that part of me. So it's like so many little things where it's like retroactively, it's like, oh, it's fucking batshit. But yeah. So this was towards the end of school, I think, where I'd sort of learnt that I could attend what I wanted and do what I wanted with relative impunity. And I think it was during a assembly, you know, like a school assembly, me and someone else had managed to wander off and go and have a smoke, just have a cigarette, but got caught by the dinner ladies because we smoked where they smoked. So a lot of the time when they were like in between or after hours, they would, yeah. But essentially we were stood there sort of smoking and they come up and they're like, oh, you two again. Oh. They sort of take us up to the secretary of the headmaster, that she's there like, oh, you two again. Oh, well, looks like you're getting in trouble. Sit here and wait. And my friend had handed over his tobacco, so they sort of sat there and put it on the desk. And like 5 minutes later, the headmaster comes in, picks up his tobacco and sort of goes into his office, asks for my friend to go in, and he goes in, sort of chats to the headmaster, gets in trouble, gets let out. So it's my turn. I go in and get the grilling, you know, what you doing, why are you doing it? Don't you think it's about time you stop smoking? Yada yada. Tried to get me to give up what I had, and I just lied because I didn't exactly have the money to go giving away what I had, you know. And because I wouldn't give up what I had, he essentially doubled down and was like, oh, well, I'm going to get hold of your parents then. I was like, oh, well, fine. already in shit. I'm going to get in shit anyway. Fuck it. So he walks out of his office to go and speak to his secretary and shuts the door behind him. And I was like, oh. Go round to the front of his desk, open the drawer, see the tobacco, pick it up, put it in my pocket, go round, sit back on the desk. And he comes back in and he's like, oh, well, we called your parents. They're going to come in and we're going to have a word. And rah, 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 rah. Right, you can go now. Like, okay. Walk out to the sort of front of school, see my mate, and was just like, yeah, here you go. And he just sort of looks at me like, what the fuck? I was like, well, what can they do? They can't prove anything. I wasn't there. They didn't, what can they do? They don't know you've got it. They don't know I've got it. So therefore, nobody knows. At which point he laughed and just sort of went off. But like I say, there's so many silly things that just living multiple lives. Like I say, doing army cadets while still smoking. Which, yeah, very contrary. But when you're dealing with like a hypocritical input, you're dealing with people that are benefiting from stolen goods and doing drugs and all these other influences, and you can't help but notice, especially when, like I say, I was already quite aware at that point. So being in and around different situations, you sort of got to speak to people and got to see things that made you see the world in a different way. Because, when you're growing up, there's sort of this preconceived notion of the way the world is, this perspective of like, everyone has their place and everyone fits in, everyone's like a cog in the machine. And it's like, when you're introduced to people that have spent, 30, 40 years drinking and being musicians and, well, that and just fuck ups. Like I say, with some of the people I was associated with when I was younger, it's any wonder they're not dead or in prison. And so I know some of them are. That's the fucking crazy thing with life. It's like, it's always the ones you don't expect. But yeah, there's so much, as I say, because temptation is a motherfucker, and that was always a problem when I was younger, because there was always temptation, because I was always out. I had no reason to be at home, really, like, other than reading, or being grounded. Which, as you can imagine, was pretty often. It's like I say, with a sort of yo-yo, as like periods of like good grace and effort followed by complete shenanigans and fuckery, because, well, temptation will lead you into interesting or fucked up situations. And that's the problem as well, because I was a book nerd, so I was quite naive in a lot of ways when I was younger, and of course that led to some stupidity. Like, try getting cannabis one day off of some random bloke that I'd met and sort of, I don't want to say befriended, but you know what I mean, as like associated with, who said he could get it. And I was like, right, well, fuck it, me and a couple of friends, I took him down there to try and get some, and he didn't have any. And then the person he was living with was an absolute fucking lunatic, like someone with a reputation of being a fucking lunatic and a fighter as well, which I already knew, like, being around crazy people, you learn certain names of certain people and certain groups to avoid, because there's fun-loving crazy, and then there's batshit fucking fight everyone, chaos crazy, which, yeah. He was one. We sat there with my mates just sort of waiting for something to turn up, and he's like, oh, I'm going to inject you. And at that point, I was just like, right, I'm off. Because I wanted nothing to do with it. Like, I'd seen the damage that Class A's had caused some of the people around me, and I was like, nope, don't want anything to do with that. Fuck this, I'm out. At which point, all my mates are laughing, and he's laughing because he was just joking around, and I was like, nah, you know what? I don't need this shit. I'm out. So just wandered off, like, just left them there with it. Yeah, there's a lot of the problem is, you know, as with most kids, it's like, lacked common sense. Couldn't read the room, wasn't able to read situations. There's a lot, like I say. And there's a lot that you can only learn through experience as much as you can learn a lot through reading. There is a lot of benefit to working and doing different things. Like, this is why I say is like, I'm not at all bitter or fucking, you know, shit happens, life goes on. It got me to the place where I needed to be. Even if it was utterly ass backwards. But that's the thing, it's like, you should never write yourself off or limit your reach, limit your potential. Because small minds will. They'll try and drag you down, they will try and limit your potential, and they'll try and limit your worldview, which, it's up to them. I think that was always a beautiful thing when I was younger, because because I had put in time and I had read books and I did understand this, you know, I was smart enough to understand certain things that, you know, does give you a bit of a leg up in the world, but it will also make you, well, won't necessarily make you a lot of friends. It's a bit like the kid in the class that's always got the answer for everything, you know. At a certain point, it's not very endearing, I guess. Which is why it's always better to keep your mouth shut, generally. Especially in life, because it's weird. And like I say, by keeping quiet, you'll get to observe people's true nature. You'll see whether they're trying to limit you or pull you to bring you down to their level, or whether they're actually trying to push you to become more. Because, yeah. Something I learned very late. But at the same time, is, you know, understanding yourself and how you'll react, and then bettering yourself, you know, like with me, is I've been in situations over the last 10 years where I could have had shitloads of money, I could have had shitloads of anything, you know, pick a thing, but didn't want to. Temptation, it's not worth it. Or like in the last 5 years, I could have done my masters, but it would have completely assholed my friend. So I didn't. Jesus. But yeah, there's a lot of situations, like I say, in the last several years where I've had the money and I've had the resources, or I've had the opportunity to do things that, whilst it would have benefited my career or pushed me further ahead, or pick a thing, it's like, You get more satisfaction out of helping others, and more satisfaction from doing the right thing, even if it means putting yourself back a little bit. Because that's the thing you realise over time is like, whilst yes, you can make your life more comfortable and easier, you learn more when it's harder. Like, that's why over the last several years, it's like I could have exhibited in 7, 8 different countries all around the world. Had opportunities to do multiple different projects that I've turned down or just ignored because costs too much. And I'd rather put the money and time into things that, whilst it won't help the business directly, indirectly it will, like compound interest. Do the right thing often enough and it will come back to you. Not in a karmic way, it's just, it's a bit like with helping people. Doesn't always necessarily come back to you in the way that you would imagine, but it's time well spent. Like, I don't know. But it's only through experience and learning and fucking up and learning more. And like I say, I'm far from fucking perfect. I've still got a lot to learn and a lot to improve on, but that's life. That's the ever-evolving path of life. Well, it is when you want to continue to evolve and to continue to grow. But that's what, like I say, that's what a lot of me sharing a lot of this shit is just that. It's giving you a window into why some of the stuff I do is a bit out there. But that, and hopefully inspire some people, because like I say, just because you start off in a certain place or a certain situation, your circumstances don't necessarily define you. They might influence you, but they don't define you. Like, this is why I say with my past, because it's like, I fucked up. Like, took me getting caution before I really sorted my shit out, and even then, still fucked up in other ways. Took me 10 years to stop drinking, you know what I mean? And even then, took me getting spiked to stop drinking, which it is kind of fucked up, but hey, it's the world we live in. It's a fucking, like I say, stories. Better to experience things firsthand, even if it does mean putting yourself through the mill. Yeah, something you learn over time is just the more you push yourself, the more you'll grow, and the more you'll look back with, I don't know, it's not so much shame, but it's like I say, you're just being real with who the fuck you are. Humility, humbleness, I don't know. I don't know how to quite define it, but you know what I mean? It's like, there's a certain point where you're just like, I've killed that part of who I was. I've killed that person. I'm, well, a bachelor's degree and aspiring to get a doctorate, you know what I mean? It's like, far cry from who I was. But at the same time, it's who I am. I can't fucking run from it. I can't to pretend like I'm some sort of saint, because, well, I'm not. And even then, even saints had lives before they were saints, so, meh. I think to some degree that's why they become more than themselves, They transcend who they were to become who they are. I don't know. Get into a spiritual realm of... I was going to say fuckery, but it's not really the correct or most eloquent way of explaining it. Spiritual dimensions, yeah. Sufism. Sounds better than spiritualism. I don't know. Philosophical, esoterical. So many ways to define the same thing, eh? The undefinable. Kind of funny that. That's the beauty of the English language. Fucking 18 ways to say we don't understand something. So I hope so. Like I say, I hope some of these stories and/or some of these insights are in some way helpful, funny, inspiring. I'm not, like I say, not really sure. Just sharing stories because waiting for sales is slowly driving me crazy. I think that's the update. Sales, it's an art in itself. And one that, well, more luck than judgment seems to be. But as I say, don't like to discuss too much because a lot of what I'm dealing with is because of my own decisions to make my life harder. Which, yeah. One day I'll get to the point where I can actually choose a somewhat easier path. Or, well, just get back into being entrenched in art. So I was explaining to a friend, when I'm doing art, when I'm creating, when I'm in that flow state, whatever the fuck you call it, like, life is easy. The minute I stop doing that, it's like, what the fuck is life? How the fuck do I do this shit? What the... It's a head fuck. Like, it's a genuine head fuck. And I suppose that's a natural way of specialising in any subject, you know. Spend enough time doing one thing and you lose the ability to do everything else, but you get very good at doing that one thing, which... yeah. There's a lot to be taken away from it, but also who the fuck knows? But yeah, I'll be back, like I say. If, I will think of some more stuff to chat to you and more lessons from the craziness, because there's a lot. There's so much from that period, because if there was a list of like every mistake you could make when you were young, I probably would have hit every single one of them. Well, nah, that's not entirely true, because like I said, it was never that bad. I wasn't a fighter. I wasn't into selling or dealing drugs necessarily. I know cannabis is a drug, but you know what I mean? It's like, other than that, stayed away from all that shit because, yeah, people. Psychosis is real. But yeah, like I say, hopefully there'll be a more positive update soon. As I say, all I've really got to do is sell a painting or a print, and I can start the ball rolling again, and or disappear into a world of my own making. One of them same. But as I say, I will keep you updated and or do more weekly videos. I will attempt to think of a more interesting place viewpoint. I don't know. Just seems apt when I'm talking and or sharing stories. It's like it's a bit more engaging than the art, because art is so, well, the way my mind works, I'm so nonchalant with it. I just do stuff and I move on so fast, and I forget that I need to actually slow shit down and explain it. Let you process it in a normal way, rather than, the atypical entertainment style, as is the way with the world. It's every 3 seconds, isn't it? Every 3 seconds you've got to shift attention or change inflections, or it gets gay. Some people go far too deep, and the source, they forget to have fun and just make cool stuff. But hey, define cool, am I right? Second book is coming at some point. The summarization, I was thinking as well, the sort of purpose and or plan is just it's like a respectful thing with the kids' books, it's sharing a journey and or sharing a journey with some of the sort of conservative classical values of family and kids and dating and I don't like human relationships. Oh, Christ. Like I say, if you've liked the video, make sure to like the video. Shocker, I know, right? Blame James McCann for the janky camera work. Taking inspiration from random scenes and or random points of view, random perspectives, as you could probably see when you got dumped in the bin. As always, links for stuff is in the description below, and I will be back at some point soon. Well, another weekly video. Keep the ball rolling. Hope you're enjoying the slightly slower form stories type videos, because fuck it, gotta do something different in a world of chaos. And as always, stay positive, be awesome. Peace out, my lovers.